Buenas tardes, este es el abogado Javier Perez aquí en nuestro podcast de Nuestro Campeón. Estoy aquí con nuestra invitada, Dr. Leti Cavazos. Gracias por estar con nosotros.
Thank you.
So we're here at your labor of love here towards the end of the day, as we were talking about. Tell us about this conference and when did it start and how has it come to be this wonderful thing that we experienced today?
Yes. So this is our third year of the conference, the Hispanic Mental Health Conference. And it started as an opportunity to kind of bring people together. We noticed that there was a lot of people serving the Hispanic community, but we were doing it in fragments. And so we wanted a space where we could all come together and talk about what's happening in our community. How do we come together to heal the community collectively? And how do we do it together? Because the more we can come together, the bigger impact we can have.
Yeah.
So we started the first year and it just blew us out of the water how many people came, which spoke to the need and the desire to have space like this and how many connections were made. And so every year it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more people look forward to it. I think a lot of people have come to really not just enjoy, but learn. And I think the other part that's very unique is it's not just for professionals, it's for our community too. So anybody can come and learn because we're not trying to keep the knowledge.
A gatekeep?
Yeah. We want the knowledge out in our community. And so the more people can come, just anybody can come and learn what's happening in our community. Why are we suffering at levels? How does trauma, even immigration trauma, pass down generation to generation? How does that look?
Yeah.
No.
Thank you for all the work that takes because, from the outside looking in, mental health wise, it just seems like such a huge task with all of the history, the current challenges for the community, and then all the ways in which that has affected how we relate to one another within the community. The focus this year is on mental health.
Yes.
Tell us about how y'all came to decide on that topic or that theme.
So we have been doing a lot of trainings in the community for a long time. And one of the things we talk about is machismo and marianismo. And when we talk about machismo, we talk about all the negative parts of that. And so looking at the bigger picture, I had to pull out and think, we need to talk about the other parts of that because we can talk about, the aggressiveness or the control, but we're also not looking at the same time at the responsibility that's put on men. From a small age, they're told, you're the man of the house now. You need to take care of your mom. You need to take care of your sisters. And that's a lot of responsibility to put on a little kid, especially if dad's working and not around or he's, not available in the home. That's a lot. And then they grow up to be these men that feel like everything's on me. I have to be the provider. I have to be the protector, but I'm not allowed to show any emotion or say that I'm tired or show any weakness.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that a lot. When we talk about marianismo, we talk about how machismo affects that, but we don't talk about how is that also affecting men.
Yeah.
So we needed a space where we can break down the stigma and the things that we keep inside and not talk about, the family secrets, and make it okay. Let men be vulnerable. Let them say, this is hard and I'm struggling. And it's okay to say that. There's a lot of abuse that happens in families, and a lot of times the men don't report it because they're not supposed to say things like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's, you've described and articulated something that I think we're all familiar with, but even just naming that challenge is powerful, because we've heard a lot today from the great speakers that y'all have brought to present about that, the machismo, and we heard one presenter talk about big M and little m machismo, but that it being it's a response to kind of the history that our community has faced, that men did have to be protectors of their families. Even, we're not talking about like in the days of hunter gathering. We're talking about like in the modern era, men had to protect their families. And so we conditioned them to be strong and formidable, and then to go out in the world and earn to provide for the families. But then almost like we expect them to be somebody completely different at home than what we've conditioned them to be outside the home. But I think there's an inherent tension between those two like gears or those two personas or roles. How have and this is, I'm leaning on your expertise here, but how do you reconcile that if you have a Latino man who was brought up that way, to have him kind of put the guard down, put his fist down when he comes home, and he's not having to, fight for the survival of his family.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work, and it's not just work with the men, it's work with the families. I see a lot of couples, and there's a common theme of, he's very angry all the time, he's very aggressive, he drinks to not think about things. And so we work on communication skills and anger management, and then the wives come back and say he's not the same person, he's very emotional now. And so
What I want this. What we're doing here?
but it does disrupt the order of
Yeah.
what's happening in the family, right? You get into this pattern of, this is how you react, and this is how I react to your reaction, and now we're changing that. And so it's not just learning new skills for the men, but also it's learning the new dynamic for the family, because everybody kind of has a new role now. It's shifted. And how do we communicate better and allow space for vulnerability and emotions in that family that we've never learned before?
Yeah.
We didn't see our parents do it, and now we're learning to do this, and it feels weird and it's different. But that's the growth that we're seeing as we start working with couples and individuals, and it's a bigger picture. And especially because we're so big on community and family, we have to take every person that's part of that system and make sure they're all learning together.
That's a really encouraging way to hear that presented, because it does affect the whole family, right? We are so interconnected, and I think people are in general, but particularly culturally, like family is the top thing, if not just one of the top things that we value. And so disrupting the dynamic, like you said, the structure that we've got, change can be painful, and very difficult. But I'm wondering if, you talked about kind of opening a spouse to, okay, if he's going to be vulnerable at home, we have to kind of make space for that. It's going to be different. What about the dynamic with children? If dad isn't, guarded and angry all the time, is that generally well accepted by children, or does that take some adjustment for them too?
It does take some adjustments, but especially depending on their age. But if they're so used to dad's anger as a response to their behavior, let's just say, they have to learn that he's not going to get mad. He's safe to go to. If he moves a certain way, that doesn't mean he's going to, raise his hand, and so they are having to learn new dynamics too. And I've worked with couples that have adult children, and they have a lot of healing to do from the way that they had a broken relationship with their fathers, because they were absent or out drinking, or maybe didn't treat their moms exactly right. And so they have to heal from that also. But it's not like that it can't be done. It's just everybody in the family has to be committed to doing it.
And it is a recalibration or readjustment of a long-standing tradition, right? And how that's been the arrangement, right? That's been the structure for a long time. Would you talk to us about kind of growing the community with the foundation? I know we were just talking to Andres Correa right before our discussion here, and he was saying that he had his, and I think he wouldn't mind me at least referencing this, that he was looking for somebody to help his mom, couldn't find somebody that spoke Spanish, and then when he became passionate about that, everyone told him he had to come find you. And that's when, as I think you told me earlier as well, that he came to the first conference and that's where y'all met. And then he's now the president of your board. He didn't share that aspect, but can you talk about kind of the building community around bilingual or Hispanic mental health here in the area?
Yeah. So one of the things that I noticed really quickly when I moved to Dallas is that there was a huge gap in services for the Hispanic community. And not just somebody who spoke Spanish, but somebody who spoke Spanish, understood the culture, understood family dynamics. I had a few clients come to me that said my therapist knew Spanish, but they weren't Hispanic. And they didn't understand the culture. And I spent 5 sessions trying to explain why I can't have boundaries with my mom.
Yeah.
And so,
Wow, that hits heavy, even just that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we bring that into the therapy room? And so that was one of the things that we wanted to do, is have people that understood the culture, that understood the language, and be able to speak to that and speak to the different healings that happen, right? Because modalities were not written for minorities. We know that.
Yeah.
So we have to adapt modalities to fit our community. And then we have to be accepting of other natural healing practices. And how do we bring that in? And so a therapy session for us may not look like sterile and how are you and you don't know anything about me. It may look like we're gonna sit and have cafecito and how is your day going and tell me about your dog or whatever, and be more casual, because we're so relational. And being able to provide therapy in the language and that they choose is so important, because people express themselves differently in Spanish or in English.
Yeah.
And so we have to allow for that space. With the foundation, we were getting a lot of calls from people who were uninsured, undocumented, just didn't have the money, but they wanted healing so bad. So we decided to create the foundation for that. And so the most anybody will pay is $10. And then we scale down from there. So they could be paying $1 a session, but we want them to have access. We don't want finances to be a barrier.
Yeah.
But as we started realizing that there weren't a lot of Spanish-speaking counselors out there. So we started Project Adelante, and with Project Adelante, we're trying to grow more bilingual counselors. And so we tutor them for the state exam. We pay for the state exam as many times as they need to take that exam, because they're not passing at the same rate. And we provide free supervision, which is probably about $10,000 when they're done with it.
Wow.
And so we want to build more Hispanic counselors so we can serve the community that's not being served at the same rate.
Yeah. And you've kind of addressed it end to end, right? You from client and the counselor side of it too, right? To facilitate, okay, where there's a need, how are we going to meet that need? Well, we need more providers, more counselors. That's just so fantastic. You were talking about kind of the modalities being kind of the different sorts of therapy that are traditionally provided.
Yeah.
In the mental health space, and that those weren't designed for minorities.
Yes.
And I love the example. I can picture the session, the cafecito session. Are there other ways that you've seen that have worked that are maybe non-traditional forms or I guess modalities for the community?
Yeah. So we it's really interesting, and I don't know if I want to say this out loud, but sometimes
we definitely want to hear it now.
but sometimes people come in, they want to talk about the novela that they saw last night, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. But they tie it into, and then whatever happened, and that's exactly what happened with me and my sister. And then so they were having the conversations about their experiences that have impacted them, but they tie it to the novela, which may not be like what you would do, like if you're doing regular counseling.
Traditionally not.
Yeah. You're not going to come in and
piece
talk
of
about a
therapy.
soap opera.
Yeah.
Right. And the therapist will be like, what are we doing? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But we go where they are going. We go and we talk about the things that they want. If they want to come in and talk about their neighbor and what they're doing,
Yeah.
that's okay. Because then we're going to talk about, well, let's talk about why that upsets you so much or something, you know? And so there's so many things that they talk about that may be a little bit nuanced differently.
Yeah.
But there's also like sometimes they come in and they're like, I really think I need to leave you. And it's like, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, not me personally, but they go do it, come back, let's talk about it. How are you feeling? Is it different? You know, and we have to be accepting of those things too.
I mean, it's really interesting to hear that. I know I've been asked to talk sometimes to other lawyers or legal professionals about managing a law firm that's Latino focused or that serves the Hispanic community. And that's one of the things that I just like, I guess, assumed that I would need to do is like recognize the role. And I imagine it's similar for a therapist, but recognize your role in this world, in that space. And that at least as an attorney, you are, entrusted with sort of kind of like the most serious matters of a person. And I mean, even more so a therapist, but, legal matters, I guess. But that it is necessary to spend the time to build the rapport with the client. And, like I may only need to, it may only have needed to be, a 2 or 3 minute phone call to get what I needed. But I serve them, right? Like I work for them. I work for my client. And the trust that we've generated, that we've created together over the course of a case, for example, over the course of me representing them, is something that is vital when we need to make decisions about the case. That they know that I care about them, and they know that I've listened to everything that's going on in their family. I don't think I've had any kind of cheeseman about the neighbors yet, but it is kind of a necessary piece of being someone that can be trusted. And so that's kind of been part of my spiel is you need to spend the time to develop that relationship in order to have an effective and productive, to provide effective and productive service to them, because it is, we're not, you're not working on their car, right? This is something you're dealing with, something that's very delicate often. And so you need to have that relationship, that rapport with them in order to effectively kind of detangle it and deal with it. Although if I may, I've been this, and I'm sure I didn't come up with this, but there's a saying about car maintenance that keeps coming up in my mind today with all the conversations, which is you need to schedule your car's maintenance or it'll schedule it for you, right? If you don't take care of your car, it's going to break down, and almost always like at the least convenient time, right?
Yes.
I'm wondering if you can apply that to kind of mental health. If you're not taking care of yourself, it's going to break down. This is going to break down at an inconvenient time. I don't know if you maybe just indulge me with that analogy.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And we tell our clients all the time that trauma lives in our bodies, right? And if you don't address it, if you try to stuff it down, if you don't talk about it, you keep it a secret, it's going to come out some way, somehow. And it's going to look different for everybody. And it may not, like you said, may not be the most convenient time, but it's always going to come out. And I think that sometimes just the reality of if it's not going to come out verbally, it's going to come out physically. And because it's all interconnected, our physical and mental health are connected. It helps them realize, everybody realize like, oh, I really do need to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Because if I'm not taking care of my mind, it's going to affect how I am physically too. And all of it's going to fall apart at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And we think about when people get sick, let's just say my team or clients, I always tell them just rest. That's your way of your body telling you need to rest.
Yeah.
And so making sure that we're looking at all of those things, because it is so true, just like a car,
Yeah.
that our bodies will tell us when enough's enough.
I mean, that's thank you for validating my little analogy, but I do think that's kind of been a recurring theme in the conversations we've had today. Is not just kind of the basic self-care, but that if you don't deal with it, it's going to deal with you, right? It is inevitably, it is affecting you, and pretending like it does not make that so. And in men's mental health in particular, I was talking to Dr. Macario Hernandez earlier, and we were talking about, like, there is, he's like, if we're sitting around, watching the game, we don't, it's not like the social standard for us to, like, okay, well, the game's over. Okay, how are you doing? Like, that's not kind of part of the tradition. But what we kind of were referencing is, like, but you do care about them, and kind of finding the way to be there for them. So I'm thinking about kind of when you are there. There is potential for community to take care of one another in spite of that stigma and those kind of structural hurdles or barriers. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the role of community in terms of men's Latino mental health?
Yeah. So I think that's so true. Like, there's a lot of times that men have such opportunities to be there for each other, but it's like, how do I let them know I'm here without saying, "Hey, are you okay?"
Yeah.
And I think men are finding more and more, the more conversations we have, that they need to be able to say, "Hey, how are you doing today?"
Yeah.
Like, is there anything I can do for you? And not be weird, or not be like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm being all emotional." I think men, it's going to take practice for some men. I think this new generation coming up are a little bit more open to, it's kind of cool to have a therapist now. But
I mean, I guess that's probably a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite kind of
Yeah.
what it's been before that.
yeah, but I think the older generation, I think it's a lot of conversation about, it's okay to check on your friend and make sure they're okay. It's okay to, we just say, "Hey, do you want to go, grab a drink and just talk?"
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, and it doesn't have to be superficial, like how the Cowboys doing.
Right.
Like, really, how are you doing? I really want to know how you're doing.
I mean, the Cowboys may be a source of some trauma for a lot of folks.
Hey, they won.
Yeah.
They won.
No, we're on the upswing now. But I do think, just what you're saying, I'm wondering if kind of like, I mean, and I guess it is, essentially like the support group model. But where you do have, like, kind of a regular coming together, that might be an opportunity to, like, okay, the purpose of our meeting is not to talk about feelings. Like, we don't have that overt purpose stated, but we're getting together anyway, and we do care about one another. And might that be an opportunity to kind of say, like, oh, well, like, so-and-so lost their job. So-and-so is going through a tough time at home. The marriage is in trouble, whatever else the case may be. If you can create a space where y'all are going to be together anyway, maybe that's an opportunity to kind of
Yeah.
provide a space for it.
Yeah. And I think the other thing to think about, though, is that in our community, we're so, what's been ingrained in us is that what happens in our house happens in our house.
Yes.
It stays in our house, right? We don't talk about it. And so I always use the analogy that there's your intimate circle, and then there's a bigger circle. And the bigger circle doesn't have the privilege to know your most intimate thoughts and feelings. Only the people in your inside circle do. But you get to choose who's in there.
Yeah.
And you get to choose wisely who has the privilege and the honor of holding that space for you. And so if we can get more people to create an inner circle that I know when I'm really struggling, this is the person I can call.
Yeah.
And I know I can trust them to hold my feelings and hold my trauma, because they're not going to go and tell everybody else.
Right.
then it becomes a safe space. And then that little intimate circle can get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But not everybody gets to know everything, right? And so when you're able to say to somebody, like, you don't have to keep it a secret, you don't have to not talk about it, but let's find this little group right here that you can trust and start there.
Yeah.
And then we can grow from there.
I like that idea, because there is like your closest confidants, right? That, are essentially family. A lot of times it feels like they're that close. But you wouldn't share with them what you'd share with people that you may have, other kind of more kind of a less close relationship with them, or acquaintances, that sort of thing. And in my world, there's a lot of blurring of lines between friends and like professional contacts. I'm sure with others as well, maybe with you guys as well. But, I kind of found myself like, I know a lot of people like just from lawyer stuff and all these other things. But then it's almost like isolating, because the bigger that group gets, the harder it is to kind of maintain close friendships.
Yeah.
But they're critical, right? I think having that space, not burdening my poor wife with every tribulation, but I do think that those relationships are important, and we already kind of have a structure for that. I think like a compadre, right? Or who you would spend many weekends with. But I think there is kind of like an existing framework to maybe build upon.
Yeah, I agree.
As far as kind of what's on the horizon for the foundation, how can folks get in touch with the foundation and follow all the work that y'all are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We're continuing to try to grow and impact. At the foundation, we kind of keep tabs on where people are coming from. And we have people as far as the Valley, El Paso, Houston, that are reaching out to receive services, because that's not only are we Spanish speaking, but we're affordable. And as we think about that, we're trying as hard as we can to try to find ways to sustain it, right? And so if we can find grants or people who want to donate, that helps us. And it's not for overhead, it's just for, to make sure that we're able to provide the services in the way that we can. Trainings, trying to get the staff trained to make sure that everybody is getting the modalities the way that we can adapt them. I think we're going to continue to grow. We've grown a lot in the last
I would believe
years.
that. Yes.
And so our goal is not only, like I said, not only to be able to be available to the community for therapy, but also to continue to grow professionals. And so that we are branching out as they graduate and become licensed, they're able to serve the community at a bigger level. And so
Awesome.
We are always welcome for anybody that wants to collaborate, wants to just talk. We have our website, CannentaFoundation.org, and we're on social. And we have offices in Addison, Oak Cliff, and San Antonio. And so stop by, say hello, get to know us.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for all the great work that you're doing, identifying that need and doing something about it. Thank you. Thanks for being here with us.